Hey everyone, this is Suleiman from Artocrafter. Today I'm painting this cozy little house I found on Pinterest. Something about its sunlight and strong shadows instantly drew me in. It's all about capturing that warm, peaceful feeling through loose sketching and watercolor. Here's a quick glimpse of what's coming, from the first ink lines to the very last highlights. Let's dive straight into the sketch. I'm using a pen directly, no pencil, because I love the spontaneity it gives. You will notice the reference photo on the top left corner, but I'm not copying it stroke for stroke. The magic happens in those imperfections, the little tilts, overlaps, and broken lines that make it truly mine. When I sketch, I try to keep my hand light and my mind quiet. I let the pen wander and find the structure naturally. Time for some color. I start with a wash of French ultramarine for the sky, not too flat, just letting it flow freely. Then comes cadmium-free red for the roof and cadmium-free yellow on the building. These two colors set the whole mood, cheerful, sunny, and full of light. I love when they bleed slightly into one another. That's where watercolor magic truly happens. Next, I move to the pavement with burnt sienna, a touch of sap green for the lawn, and some neutral grays to tie everything together. Now comes my favorite part, the shadows. I start under the veranda and around the steps where the sunlight creates the deepest contrast. For shadows, I mix Payne's grey with burnt sienna. It gives a warm, earthy tone instead of a cold black. As the brush moves across the window, I'm careful to keep the shadows soft. A little variation here makes the glass feel alive, catching just enough light to tell its own quiet story. I try not to overwork the washes. The less you touch, the fresher it looks. Watercolor rewards patience. Every pause between layers adds clarity and glow. The trick is to let the water do the blending while you watch it unfold. Once the base layers are done, I add small refinements, deepening the roof edges, strengthening window frames, and softening the transitions. What I have learned is that a building isn't just walls and windows, it has character. The looseness in each line tells you something about the story, the light, and even the weather of that moment. The beauty often appears right when you stop trying too hard. When I first started watercolor painting, I used to worry about ruining a good start. But over time, I realized that every painting teaches you something new, even the messy ones, especially the messy ones. Sometimes I look at a painting halfway through and think it's a disaster. But then, after a few careful glazes and shadow layers, it suddenly begins to make sense. That's the magic of watercolor. Patience always pays off. If you are painting along or starting your own sketch, here's a small tip. Focus on the feeling more than the form. Don't worry too much about the perfect lines or the exact shades. Let your brush wander, listen to what the colors are doing, and you will find your own rhythm. Over the period of time, I have learned that every artist has their own tempo. Some like slow, layered washes, others go bold and fast. There is no right way. The only wrong way is to stop exploring. So, whenever you feel stuck, step back, breathe, and look at your painting from a distance. You will start seeing what's already working, not just what's missing. At this point, I went a bit heavy with the grey and lost some of the line detail. So I re-wet the area and lifted the pigment with a paper towel. A quick fix most watercolorists know well. With the second layer of red, everything suddenly comes to life. It adds that warmth and contrast the whole painting was waiting for. Every painting feels like a small conversation between patience and curiosity. Here I made another mistake and lifting up the color with the paper towel. Time for those final touches. I'm using a white gel pen to add highlights, tiny sparkles on the window, roof edges, and spots where sunlight bounces. These small details make a big difference, adding that crispness to an otherwise loose composition. I always feel like this is where the painting finally breathes. A warm, sunlit home captured in watercolor with all its imperfections and charm. I really enjoyed painting this one. It reminded me how light and shadow can completely transform a simple subject. If you like this video, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to Artocrafter for more watercolor sketches and painting journeys. This is Suleiman signing off. Until the next sketch on next Saturday, keep creating and trust the process.